You're listening to the Fierce Fatty podcast. I'm Victoria Welsby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money, and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty podcast. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Fierce Fatty podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Welsby, and in this episode, we're talking about the BBC show that I was in, and I'm going to be spilling the beans. Let's do it. Have you seen the two-part documentary series that I was in, shown on BBC Two? It was about a month ago now. Don't worry if you're not in the UK, you can still see it. Don't tell the BBC I'm telling you this, but someone told me that if you Google "Who Are You Calling Fat," which is the show name, and also the words "Daily Motion," then you'll find you'll be able to stream both the episodes on Daily Motion for free, no matter where you are in the world. But if you are in the UK, you can catch up on the BBC iPlayer for the next 11 months, where the show's going to be streaming for free. Obviously not for free because you pay a TV license, but yeah. So if you haven't watched it, I don't want to say go check it out, but if you do want to go check it out, then it's there for you. And I'm having a lot of feelings about the show. So in this episode, I want to clarify some things and tell you some of the things you didn't get to see in the episode. But before I do, I wanted to remind you that if you leave a review for this podcast, one, I'm going to be eternally grateful to you. You can leave a review on Stitcher or on iTunes. I don't know that there's anywhere else you can leave a review, but they're the two places I know. And two, if you do that and you take a screenshot before you submit it, email me, victoria@fiercefatty.com, with that screenshot. I am going to send you an audio and digital copy of my best-selling book, which is also called Fierce Fatty. How to love your body and live like the queen you already are. Amazing. So that's my gift to you. It's really important that I get reviews, lots of reviews, 5-star reviews for this podcast, especially as it's just starting up, because it helps spread the word and it helps the algorithm on Stitcher and on Apple Podcasts to know that this is not a big pile of shit. Maybe it is a big pile of shit, but some people don't think it is, which is good. So let's talk about this episode, this TV show, 2-part TV show. So I was filming in June or July, one of those months. I went to Oxfordshire. I don't actually know where we were because it's all very top secret. And we stayed in this house with 9 other fat people, bigger bodied people. And the way that I got into the show is that the production company called Love Productions, they're the same production company that has done the Great British Bake Off. They contacted me after seeing my TEDx talk, and it feels like a million years going back and forth and meeting people and talking to people and whatnot. They picked me to be on the show. And the reason why I chose to go on the show, because it was the BBC, because of the higher caliber of shows this production company has produced, because the the team were telling me very like, this is to elevate fat voices. It's really important for people to understand fat positivity, and that reassurance that this is not going to be a sensationalist piece of garbage sort of thing. So that's my reasonings behind going on the show. And really why I wanted to go on the show was two reasons. One, to elevate this message that it's okay to be fat. It's my life's calling. It's my life's mission for people to know that they don't have to be living in shame because of the size of their body, that you can be fat and healthy. You can be fat and happy. You can be fat and loved. You can be fat and have a fulfilling, incredible, wonderful, joyful life. And you don't actually have to lose weight to get all of those things that you can get living in the body that you are now. So it's my life's mission to share that message. And what a better way to do it on a program which is going to be watched by millions of people. And two, I really wanted that extra exposure for my business. The more people, the more eyes on my business, the better for the message, the better for me. And I think that I have an important voice that needs to be heard in regards to fat positivity and confidence and intuitive eating and all that sort of stuff. So we, after a lot of back and forth, I eventually arrived in the countryside in Oxfordshire. And we spent 10 days together, and we did a lot of stuff that you don't get to see on the show. Almost, it feels like every single minute of every single day was accounted for in regards to doing something or talking to a camera person or being filmed. Like literally, from the moment your eyes opened, there would be a camera person there until the time that you went to bed, and they'll be like, can we film you brushing your teeth? And you'd be like, no one wants to see footage of me brushing my teeth, really. But they insisted watching the whole thing and getting into bed and turning the light off. And they had a crew there 24 hours a day, just in case something happened in the night, someone kicked off or something. And it was a really interesting experience. It was very tiring, not only because we were doing stuff all the time, but talking about heavy stuff, no pun intended, political stuff for that many hours of a day. It's exhausting, right? And you need some like comic relief. And the times that we weren't talking about this stuff, we laughed so much. Like I haven't laughed as much in a concentrated period of time as I did in that house. Like all of us, spent evenings together and crying, laughing, especially on the very last night, like literally like telling people, stop, I'm dying. But you don't get to see any of that. At the end of filming, we said, they're going to be really mad with us because none of us had any type of fight or conflict or people didn't raise their voices, or no one had a fist fight or anything like that. And it's interesting to see how it's edited to make it look like there's a lot of conflict when in reality there actually wasn't. And even at the point where Sarah left the table after the discussion about body size and privilege, it was just like, oh, well, Sarah's gone because she doesn't like the discussion, and, there was no hard feelings or anything like that. And we all just carried on getting on with each other as normal. But that doesn't make good telly, right? And what else doesn't make good telly is people having very balanced opinions. And so I was the one who was portrayed as the extremist of having these views which were bananas. And I knew going in that there would be a lot of people who hated me, a lot of fat phobes who were just like, how dare she say it's okay to be fat? But what was really difficult for me was having people hate me for opinions that I don't actually hold. Because of the way that the show was edited for various reasons, like it's a 2-hour documentary, they can't get in all of the background to every single statement. And as well, it's more entertaining when I say something like, I don't believe in the science, and we don't actually hear what the science is that I'm talking about, and people will take from it that I don't believe in science in general, which is not true. And so I want to clarify some of those things where it's like, that's not really what I said or what I meant. So, some people will watch a documentary and they're going to take from it that I and anyone who is interested in body positivity doesn't care about health, about public health, about individual health. And those who do are bad or stupid or wrong. And perhaps I've never been to a doctor, or perhaps I have no clue about what it's like to live in a bigger body, because theoretically so far I've never had any negative side effects. Some people are going to take from the show that I think that people who diet or have stomach amputation surgery are bad people, or stupid, or all of the negative things that you can think. Some people were going to take from the show that I don't think that there's any chance that fat people can ever get diabetes. And these things that I'm saying that some people will take from it is reasonably they will take from it. It's not like they're getting these ideas just out of nowhere. It's because the way the show was edited leads you to believe that I could think these things or believe these things. Another one is I don't believe in any weight-related science. Well, I'm going to answer all of these in a second. Other people will take from it that maybe I'm narcissistic or arrogant or egotistical for thinking that my body is okay or good or attractive. Some people are going to take from it that intuitive eating is being greedy and eating quote-unquote unhealthy food all the time. And that intuitive eating is all sorts of, assumptions being made about what intuitive eating actually is. And another thing is we shouldn't teach kids about food, because if we teach kids about food in any way whatsoever, they will automatically get an eating disorder. Now, there's lots of other things that people are going to take away from it that, like I'm a bad person, I'm evil, I'm killing people with my opinions. I've heard it all, really, that basically I should just stop being here on the planet because of my thoughts and beliefs. And, some people really do believe that, and, it's their place to believe what they want. Is that a helpful belief for them? Maybe it is, but it's not really based in reality. And something that is important for me is to embrace the idea that I am a human being, and I'm not 100% good, and I'm not 100% bad. I'm just a human, and I'm deeply flawed, and I don't always do the best that I can do, and sometimes I do the best that I can do. But I'm infallible, and sometimes I make mistakes, and sometimes I don't communicate in the best ways, and sometimes I do, and I'm an excellent communicator, and I'm a great person, but I'm a human, right? And a human being means that there's good and bad about me. Obviously, I can try and work on being as good as I can most of the time, but we're all human beings. So the truth about the things that have been portrayed in the show and like the reality is, so there's obviously the first thing that in this documentary is it's kind of like body positivity versus health. And the thing is, I'm rolling my eyes right now. The thing is, body positivity is health. It's choosing mental and physical health. And so it's not either or. That's something that really cheesed me off, because people, rightfully so, will be scared away from body positivity and fat activism because they think if I want to love my body, I have to give up on my health. And in fact, the opposite is true. Because we know that diets damage our physical and mental health, choosing to stop dieting is choosing to work on your mental health and choosing to stop damaging your physical health and in turn work on that. But also you don't need to if you don't want to, if health is not a priority for you. That's another thing about body positivity. You're not going to be shamed if health is not a priority for you. But with diet culture, you will be. So focusing on health so dramatically, so, but fat people, like as soon as you hear fat people, but what about the fat people? What about their health? They're killing everyone by being fat. They're a burden on the health system. They're going around and eating babies because fat people are so bad and all this sort of malarkey. It increases shame, and shame has been shown to have very negative health outcomes. Shame is just bad all around for your physical and your mental health. And health is not binary. So one line that I had in the show, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense with with nothing to explain what I'm talking about, is I said, I don't believe in health. Health is binary. So that was the two lines. I don't believe in health. Health is binary. And so a lot of people are like, you're so fucking dumb. How can you not believe that health is a thing? And I'm just like, okay. What I mean is I don't believe in the way that society views health as a black and white, on or off, healthy or unhealthy thing, because that's not helpful. Because we can never be 100% healthy. We can never be 100% unhealthy. Maybe if we're dead, but it's not either or. It's a spectrum. It's a scale. It's shades of gray. And looking at health like it's always a personal responsibility, and you're the only reason that you are healthy or unhealthy is not based in science, and it's not true, right? And believing that healthy bodies are more important than unhealthy bodies is all kinds of fucked up. And it's based in healthism. And healthism is the idea that healthy bodies are better than unhealthy bodies, that the individual is in control of their health status. And what we know about health is that it's a very complicated issue, that a lot of things contribute towards someone's health outcomes. And what you eat and how you move your body is only a small percentage of what makes up someone's health status or health outcomes. It's a lot to do with your socioeconomic status, what country you're born, what your ethnicity is, how rich you are, your access to healthcare, etc., etc., etc. Right? It's a really complicated issue. And so when I say I don't believe in health, I don't believe in the way that we view health currently in our society in the mainstream media. And a big way for people to express fat phobia without being overtly fat phobic is to say, but what about their health? About fat people. That's fat phobic, but it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm concerned about you and I'm concerned about society. I always say to people, if you're really concerned about me and my health, you would also be concerned about my mental health, which you are actively damaging right now with your fake, what about your health? Bullshit. And I'm not here for that fat phobic fuckery because it's just fat phobia in disguise, right? Okay, so the next point is that I think that people who diet or have stomach amputation surgery are bad people, according to some people who watch the show. So, no. If I thought that people who diet are bad people, I would be including myself in that list because I was a lifelong dieter. And I'd be including 90% of women who 90% of women have dieted. So no, you're not a bad person if you diet, are actively dieting, if you have stomach amputation surgery. And a note on why I use the word stomach amputation surgery. Now, it is so important to describe what is actually happening when people have their stomachs amputated in order to gain the things that they have been told that this surgery will give them. It is a violent act and we need to not normalize it. And also, using the words weight loss surgery is a misnomer, because often people don't lose weight, or what happens when there's weight loss, it's a temporary thing. So for me, stomach amputation surgery, or stomach squeezing surgery, as Marilyn Wan, author of Fatso, incredible fat activist, just recently introduced to my vocabulary, depending on what type of surgery it is. That's why I use that. It's really important not to normalize something that has terrible, terrible outcomes, really, and ruins people's lives. Honestly, there's so many. I don't even get me started on this. It's just, in 20 years' time, we're going to look back, hopefully, and be like, holy shit, I can't believe we used to do that to fat people. Oh my God. We're so sorry. So anyway, do what you want with your body. Your body, your choice. If you have decided that stomach amputation surgery is your only hope and is the best choice for you, you do you. You know your body better than anyone else in the world. If you have stumbled across a diet and you think, oh my God, this diet is really going to be the one. This is going to be the one that makes me lose weight, and therefore I'm going to become healthy and worthy and lovable and accepted in society, then you do it. Go ahead, go and do it. The pressure to be thin is so immense that dieting and surgery make absolute sense as a response. It's kind of weird not to diet, really, if you think about it. Because that pressure that we feel is astronomical. And letting go of that idea that becoming thin, all of your dreams are going to come true, is very difficult and sad. Really sad to let go of that. If only I lost X amount of pounds, then my mum would really love me. Then my partner would really think I was sexy. Then I'd be loved and cherished and I'd be worthy. Fuck, that's hard, right? And so I have deep empathy for people who are in that situation. And I kind of feel like it's a journey that we're all on. And people who are dieting, they're just a different stage in their journey. And if someone came to me and was like, oh, I'm doing a diet, I would never, unless they said to me, what's your opinion on diets? I would never be like, by the way, motherfucker, you're so dumb for dieting. I just wouldn't engage, because I wouldn't engage in diet talk anyway, and I would remove myself from the situation. But this show, it was all about, what is your opinion? What is your opinion? And so they asked me directly, what's your opinion on this surgery? And I say it's all kinds of fucked up. And in that scene where you see Del comparing being fat and happy to Chernobyl. Oh my God. There was a bit that was, it was in the original editing, but it was cut out. And I was asking Courtney, like, how did you feel when he was like, because he held up his trousers and saying, oh my God, look how fat I used to be. And it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, and then he was talking about how, everyone who's fat and happy, they're like comfortably numb. And then he's talked about Chernobyl. And we were like talking about that earlier, but later being like, oh my God, I can't believe that he compared Chernobyl and people who are fat and happy. Like, no. I don't know why I got onto that. But anyway, and so you see me saying in that scene, like, oh, he could have engaged in healthful behaviors if he was interested in his health. Now, I would never go up to someone who's had stomach amputation and be like, "Why, you did that wrong. You should have done this." But the conversation was around like, what is the alternative? And that's why that line came out. So I'm not in the business of offering people my opinion, unless they come to me for my opinion, or you come to my podcast, or you come to my social media and you're there to see what I think, right? So I'm not in the business of forcing my views on other people and telling people they're wrong for dieting or doing whatever they want with their bodies. It's got nothing to do with me. But when people promote that dieting is going to give you all of this, magical stuff, and money's going to rain down from the sky, and all your dreams are going to come true as long as you lose 20 pounds or 50 pounds or 200 pounds or whatever, that's when I have to stand up and call bullshit and say, not so much, and promote a different way, an alternative. So this is one that got really people ruffled, that I don't think there's any chance for fat people to ever get diabetes. Obviously. So on the second day, Jack invited in Colin, who was an ambassador representative from Diabetes UK. Now, as fat people, from the time that we have a bigger body, people are saying to us, "Do you know that you are about to spontaneously combust because you're so fat that it's pretty likely you're going to die in about 12 minutes, right? We get it from every fucking corner of the world, everywhere. Fat people know that there are potential health outcomes. We're at high risk for certain things. Now, that's a very simple statement that I just made. It's actually a very complex issue. And a lot of the research is we don't know why, for example, fat people are more likely to get diabetes versus thin people. We don't know what's going on there. We can't say, oh, it's because they have more fat on their body. We cannot say that. Science doesn't know. There's not an answer. If you're unsure about this, go to any diabetes charity webpage and read a little bit about diabetes. So yes, of course, fat people get type 2 diabetes. Of course, fat people are more likely to get type 2 diabetes than straight-sized people. We don't know why. Okay, so it's not in contention that fat people get sick and die. Like, fat people are not, blessed with eternal life, right? Like, what the hell? Do you really... Some people really think that I think that fat people just don't die. Fat people never get sick. No. Yeah, that's not reality. But the thing is should we, where I struggle with is, should we continually be shaming fat people because they're more likely to get diabetes? Should we be increasing the stigma around type 2 diabetes as a personal failing, not a very manageable condition? Because really, if you do get type 2 diabetes, the medicine and the technology we have today means it's very manageable. Now, if you do what Colin did, Colin on the show, who had his leg amputated, he actually ignored his condition and his diagnosis for 20 years. And so he was diagnosed with diabetes and straight up ignored it, didn't take any medication. And because of that, he had to have his leg amputated. Now, it was presented that, and it's very fear-mongery, presented that he got diabetes and all of a sudden, because he was, fat and greedy and ate loads of chips, like he said, he had to get his leg amputated. But that wasn't the reality. And that's not the reality for most people living with type 2 diabetes. And to make people so terrified that if they eat a candy bar, a Snickers or whatever, that they're going to get diabetes, it's not based in reality. And that increased shame makes people sick. Like, should we keep fat shaming people on the off chance that they get diabetes when we know shame directly harms and kills fat people? And shame makes fat people fatter. Not that there's anything wrong with being fatter. But if you want fat people to be thinner, then don't shame them, because, it's going to have the opposite effect. Now, in the very start of the program, we talk about words, and I say that the O words, which are overweight and obese, are slurs. They shouldn't be used. You don't get to see the reasoning behind it. I wrote a really detailed post on Instagram about this. And so if you want to know more about why the O words are slurs and shouldn't be used, go onto my Instagram, fierce.fatty, and look at the post that says the words overweight and obese are slurs and shouldn't be used. Anyway, and in that whole discussion, I say, I don't believe in the science. Now, a few minutes later, Sarah said to me, what do you mean exactly when you say you don't believe in the science? I say, I don't believe in like the science that weight loss companies, when weight loss companies pay for studies to be done to show that their diet means that you're going to lose 75,000 pounds in 12 seconds. So that's the science I don't believe, is bullshit science, which is the science that most people don't believe, right? So, science that is not based in science. I believe in science that is based in science. But they don't show that clarification, because it sounds better that I say, I don't believe in science. Oh, I'm crazy, right? That's more interesting. So there is not one single study ever in the history of science, of the world, to show that a diet works long term. So diets, they help you lose weight. Absolutely, they help you lose weight temporarily. But most diets will, after between 2 to 5 years, you will have put back on the weight. At best, you will have put back on the weight and more. And also, you would have picked up a ton of disordered eating habits and lower self-esteem and shame and all that juicy stuff that we love, right? So, yeah. Also, what I don't support is the idea that correlation equals causation. That's the whole thing with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and fat bodies. Like, we don't know that having a fat body is the reason that fat people are more likely to get type 2 diabetes. Is a very complicated issue. And this is not radical stuff that I'm saying. It's pretty well established, and it's very well known that correlation doesn't equal causation. Because that's just not the way that the world works, right? So next, there was a scene, oh my God, there was a scene, right? So I was explaining about body size privilege, saying that because I have a small, medium fat body. So I'm a UK size 20, 22, and a US size 22, 22, 24. Anyway, I know my British size is better. Anyway, so I'm a small, medium fat. That means that I have more privilege in my body. For example, when I go to a restaurant, I know that most chairs I will fit in. There will be some chairs that I will have to say, let's swap this chair because it's like super uncomfortable, but I can still fit in the chair. There is one store that I can go to and shop for clothes in the local, in the city centre, right? So there's one place that I can go. People who have bigger bodies will have 0 places to go. People who have smaller bodies to me will have more than one place they can go and shop. When I go to a fairground, I will fit into 90% of the rides. I am probably paid more than people who have bigger bodies and promoted more than people who have bigger bodies. I experience less discrimination and marginalization. I get less abuse and hate online, although I do get my fair share. Yeah. So it's important to recognize levels of privilege, because we want to get the most marginalized folks raised up and lifted up versus giving all of our attention to straight size people who say, oh, look at my tiny little tummy roll. Oh, I'm so fat. Oh. So my life is theoretically easier than someone else's life who has a bigger body. Not saying that their life is shit because they have a bigger body, but my life is not necessarily like rainbows and unicorns because I have a smaller body. It just means that there are systems in place to make it a little bit easier for me to live, right? And there's systems in place that makes it someone who has a bigger body a little bit harder to live, right? And it's all on a scale, and everyone is different. There might be other intersections at play with your identity, and it's all very complicated, but it's important to recognize that I have privilege in my body. Anyway, and so I was talking about privilege in my body, and then it cuts to a scene of Sarah being like, how can she be so egotistical to think that her body is better than other people's? And I was just like, I rolled. Ooh, that's not what privilege means. So privilege is not like, I'm so fucking gorgeous and you lot are really fucking ugly. It's got nothing to do with that. But obviously I am gorgeous. But it's got nothing to do with that. It's about access, and it's about marginalization. It's about how the world views different bodies, right? So, a lot of people see me as a fat woman strutting around in my bikini being like, yeah, look at my fucking jubbly, wobbly bits. And yeah, I want to look in the mirror. And, there's a scene where I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I say, oh, I'm so good looking, tongue in cheek. And that is very jarring for a lot of people to hear that, to hear a fat person say, oh, I'm so good looking. Because we have been told that fat people should be very down on themselves. They should hate their bodies. They should be grateful for any attention or any reassurance that they get, especially from straight size people. And they shouldn't be prancing around in a bikini thinking that they are the mutt's nuts. And when we see someone who does think that they're okay, does think that their body is good, that does think that their body is attractive in a body that society tells us is not attractive, that is very difficult for some people to deal with. Kind of like, has no one told this bitch that she's fucking ugly? Like, doesn't she know what she looks like? And yeah, I know what I look like, and I look fucking gorgeous. I mean, hello, have you seen me? So yeah, some people take that as narcissism, and it's not. It's just called self-esteem. It's just called not holding on to the shame that I don't need to hold on to, right? That's not my shame to hold. If people think that like that about their bodies and then therefore think like that about my body, that's their problem. It's got nothing to do with me. And it's like, if we see a confident guy, we're just like, oh, he's just confident. And it's to do with sexism as well. Like when we see a confident woman, she's a bitch, right? No, I'm not a bitch. I'm nice. Sometimes maybe I'm a bitch. I don't think I am. That's not something I identify with. But yeah, I'm not a narcissist. I'm not egotistical. I'm just someone who has healthy self-esteem and is not afraid to say to people, yeah, I'm good looking. And what, right? And what? Jesus Louises. All right. Okay. So intuitive eating. Now, you hear a very short soundbite of me saying, "Oh, I'm an intuitive eater," and then Sarah finishing, kind of saying, "That means that you eat whatever I want," and I say, "Yeah, that's what it means. I eat whatever I want." Very layman's terms of basically, very roughly, it means I eat what I want. To the untrained ear, that sounds like I eat whatever I want. Fuck the consequences. I guzzle lard milkshakes 24 hours a day. I have an IV into my arm of melted butter and cream. And I never eat vegetables. I detest them. And I just eat cake for breakfast, like 10 cakes for breakfast, because I eat whatever I want when I want. That's diet culture. That's all the opinions from diet culture. That is not what intuitive eating is. Intuitive eating, the non-layman's version, is, I could have done a lot better in that moment. I could have said, yeah, it is eating what I want when I want, but also it's what it really means is listening to my body, honoring what it wants and needs. And if that means that I want something fresh, like, for example, yesterday I wrote down, I have a diary, and every day I write down things. One of the questions was, what could have made today better? And I was like, you know what? More vegetables. And so I've got a hankering at the moment for vegetables. And so I'm making myself broccoli soup tonight because I have a hankering for some green vegetables. But that doesn't make me a good person because I'm listening to my body, and my body says, I want some green vegetables, girl. And I'm like, okay, you're going to get some. But then, I'm going to maybe tomorrow have a hankering for, 20 cakes for breakfast or whatever. So it's listening to our bodies, and it's healing that relationship that we have fucked up through diet culture. I think it's so rare that someone is not fucked up through diet culture. Really, really, just to find an intuitive eater in the wild who hasn't been taught how to be an intuitive eater, because we are all born intuitive eater. Babies are intuitive eaters, right? You don't hear a baby like crying and then being like, do you know what? Actually, it was 2 hours ago that I ate, and really I should be eating every 3 hours, and so I'm going to leave it for an hour and then eat in an hour because that's when I should be hungry, right? The baby's just like, no, I'm fucking hungry. Don't care it's 2 a.m. Don't care that I ate 2 hours ago or 1 hour ago, or I just ate and threw up. Give me some more food. Please, thank you. Gonna go to sleep. I feel good. Poo in my pants. So, we're born intuitive eaters, and then it's hammered out of us with all of the, you must eat your greens, and don't leave the dinner table until you clean your plate, and, forcing children to eat more than what they want, and they, for getting children to not listen to their bodies, because, children know when they've had enough. And it's all of our bullshit saying, broccoli is good, but it doesn't taste very nice. We're just reinforcing that by saying, eat your greens, or this chocolate, it's a treat. We're really putting chocolate on a pedestal, or whatever it is we're putting on a pedestal, and we're teaching them that vegetables are bad. And, that's just one example. We do it through loads of different ways. We fuck up kids and continue to buy into this diet culture bullshit as adults as well. It's intuitive eating is healing our relationship with food and getting to a place where we listen to our bodies. When it says, I'm hungry, we do our best to eat. When it says, I've had enough, we say, do I want to continue eating because this thing is delicious, or do I feel good? Do I feel satiated? And listening to that, not feeling like, oh my God, I need to eat more of this thing than I actually want because I'm scared I'm never going to get it again because it's a quote unquote bad food. So intuitive eating basically is eating like you've never been fucked up by diet culture. Okay, so the last point that I wanted to make was there's a scene where we read this survey that people have about there's a survey that people have about, people living in fat bodies, like, are fat people a burden on the NHS and bullshit like that. And one of the points was like, oh, we should teach kids more about the fact that they're going to die any second if they're fat. And I was like, nah, maybe not. I don't think continuing to shame kids is a good idea. And then one of the lines I say is teaching kids about food increases the risk of eating disorders. Now, what I mean is that the vast majority of the ways in which we currently teach kids and adults about food is steeped in diet culture and fear mongering, right? And we teach kids about good food and bad food. And, you know, like this whole new fucking Weight Watchers bullshit, teaching kids about like red foods and don't eat too many of the red foods, and the red foods being bad and the green foods being good, and you can eat more of the green foods. And oh my God, it's so fucked up. And, you know, as well as portion control and any other rules, it's actively harming them, right? I bet you so many people, fat people, have this, and I know so many fat people have that story of learning this stuff from our caregivers, saying, "Oh, you mustn't. Oh, don't eat too many of those chips. Oh, yeah." And it just teaches disordered eating. It teaches us not to trust our bodies, not to trust ourselves, because we cannot control ourselves around certain foods because they are addictive. Food isn't addictive, but that's the message that we're giving kids, versus teaching kids about food in an intuitive eating way. So making it fun and not saying, oh, you should eat your vegetables because they're better for you, and you shouldn't eat this thing because it's bad for you. But saying things like vegetables give you energy, or vegetables help your, you know, eyes grow. I'm making it up. But educating in a way that is not based in shame, and saying, you know, letting them eat dessert before dinner, you know, like giving the whole meal at once and just letting children eat what they want. Like you decide if you want to raise an intuitive eating child, look into Ellen Satter, but it's a whole thing of a division of responsibility. You provide the food and then they choose what they eat, and you provide the food, and it might mean giving them the dessert with dinner and not making the dessert the treat, and seeing what happens. And, you know, that's how you raise an intuitive eating child, is, you know, teaching them without shame and being curious with them and just letting them do their own thing. You provide the food and let them do their own thing. So teaching kids in the way that we currently teach them is absolutely encouraging eating disorders, and disordered eating patterns, and low self-esteem, and all sorts of negative things. And so we need to reform the way that we talk to children about food. And so what would be really cool is if we had Health at Every Size, HAES informed non-diet dietitians or nutritionists teach intuitive eating and how to have food peace. And this includes eating foods that make us feel good, both physically and emotionally. Maybe that would undo the harm that we have already caused our children in this fatphobic society. So they're the main points. Like, whew, it's been like a month since the show came out, and I'm still getting hate mail. It's incredible. Like, some people, I'll block them on Instagram because they're like, I hate you. And I block them, and then they'll email me, or they'll find me somewhere else, and they'll be like, you blocked me. Listen to my rant. And they'll send me like paragraphs of bullshit. It's just mind-boggling. Like, one person was like, I'm thin, and you saying that you like your fat body is wrong because you're telling thin people that they shouldn't like their thin body. I'm like, bitch, no, Jesus. A fat person says, I like having a fat body. Thin fragility. Oh my God. Yeah, but what really gets on my tits is people being like, "What? You don't think fat people ever get sick?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. What? No, I don't believe that." Yeah, so it's people hating me for things that I don't believe, which is difficult for me, because I'm absolutely ready to take a stand for the things that I do believe in, but the portrayal of body positivity as this kind of extremist anti-health movement is very damaging towards people who are trying to love themselves, because they're like, I don't want to be an extremist. I want to look after my health. I don't want to die. And unfortunately, the show, for some people, portrayed body positivity as a quote-unquote cult. And even one of the people, Sarah, said, they're a cult. When we all know the real cult is diet culture. Oh dear. Yeah, but generally, like, we in the house, everyone got along, apart from there was one person that shall remain nameless that no one really liked because they were really inappropriate, would say inappropriate things, would stare at the women's tits all the time, shouted at the producers, was like really unreasonable, would go on long monologues, and was just basically a massive creep. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see how this person's edited. And then I watch the show and I'm like, huh? They're not in it. Like, what? You don't get to see any of the creepy stuff and annoying stuff. And what the hell? I'm portrayed as a villain. Like, what? Oh my god. Which was a surprise. Anyway, so I am hopefully next episode going to get on the rest of the body positive crew from the show, because obviously we all love each other. Incredible. So that's David, the plus size male model. He is a fucking, oh my god, dreamboat. Miranda, the plus size sex worker. She is also a TEDx speaker, comedian, podcast host. Incredible. Courtney, known as Body Posi Bell on Instagram. She is just she's so funny. She's like, she was is what she says. And kind and smart and just a great human being. And so next episode we are hopefully, fingers crossed, going to get us four together and we're going to have a little chinwag about the episode and share our views in a way that's not edited to make us look like we are unhinged or unreasonable or whatever. So fingers crossed we can get all four of us together for a nice little natter about all of that juiciness. Just this week, last week, was approached by Huffington Post to write an article on intuitive eating. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. So that is fiercefatty.com/007 for episode 7. I'll link that article. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, Huffington Post approached me and I wrote this piece for them. And Evelyn Trebow, one of the founders of Intuitive Eating, actually shared it on her social media. So, it's good. Oh yeah, no big deal. Fucking amazing. I was like, oh my god, the founder of Intuitive Eating thinks that my writing is good and not a big pile of shit enough to share on their social media. So yay. So to read that article, go to fiercefatty.com/007 or check out the show notes where I'll have the link in there, so you don't need to type it out. And a reminder to leave me a review, and before you submit your review, take a screenshot, send it to me, Victoria@fiercefatty.com. I'm going to send you as a thank you a audio and digital version of my ebook, best-selling book, Fierce Fatty, because you rock and you deserve some love for spreading the love about this podcast. And bonus points, share that you are listening on social media and I will put you in the draw to win one of 5 Fierce Fatty cups, mugs, drinking accoutrement, equipment, drinking solution. Anyway, it says Fierce Fatty is amazing. I have one. So share on social media and tag me that you are listening to this episode, and I'll put you in to win one of those mugs. All right, okay. So thank you for hanging out with me today as I spill the beans on Who Are You Calling Fat, the BBC 2 documentary that I was in. And a reminder, if you do want to watch it, of course, massive trigger warning. If you do want to watch it, there is heavy use of the O words. There is obviously fat phobic fuckery. There is shaming. There's also radical bits of fat positivity, and it'd be cool if someone just cut out all of the fat phobic fuckery and just had the fat positivity in, so people could watch it and not be exposed to that. But if you're feeling up for it, then check it out. If not, then don't, because it could be triggering for you. I know it was triggering for me, being in the house with fat phobes for 10 days. I needed a big old break afterwards, and to be surrounded by fat positive people. Before we go, I want to share a fact about me, Victoria Wellsby. That's my name. And my fact today is that I have a dog called Dougal, and he is so fucking cute. I love him so much. He looks like a miniature border collie mixed with a papillon. He's a mutt. I got him from a rescue in San Bernardino in the US. I think he came across from Mexico. Then he was flown into Canada, where I got him. He's now in Ireland with me, because I'm in Ireland for the year. And he is black and white. And yeah, he looks like a border collie, but with a papillon tail and papillon ears. He knows a lot of tricks, like speak and ringing a bell, like a bell for food. He's really clever, and he snuggles with me at night time. Oh my God, I love him so much. And I've had him for about 5 years, so I think he's about 6 years old. And he is almost always at my feet when I'm recording this podcast or recording videos or doing any type of work, because he follows me around like a creep, like a loser. Oh my God, he's obsessed with me. But honestly, it's me who's obsessed with him, because he really, really is fantastic for my mental health. And when I'm without him for any time at all, I'm like, oh, I need to see him and stroke him and stuff. So, yep, Dougal, the little dog, the miniature border collie looking papillon thing. And he's my little buddy. He's my son. Yeah, so that's the fact about me today, is I have a dog and I love him. He's called Dougal. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me today and being a part of the Fierce Fatty Revolution. You rock, obviously. And I will see you on the next episode, my Fierce Fatty. Okay, goodbye.